Dave, thanks for taking some time and coming on to talk talent acquisition with us. Do we have Dave? Do we have Bartoo?
Is that it? Just talent acquisition? Man, we can go off on all sorts of things. I was returning the wedding kegs back to Main Brew, man, and I'm like driving down 26. I'm like, I hear Dave Bartoo, talent. I'm like, hey, I know that guy. and so I'm like, hey, I got time today. You know, I'm texting Dusty. I'm like, let's go. Let's do this right now. So, but before we go into talent acquisition, though, okay, let's get real about polls. Here's my thing about top 25 polls in the preseason. Okay, they're as worthless as spring football evaluations, number one. And number two, in spite of what all fans think or most fans think, there is no poll that comes out that has any impact ever on the playoff committee. It doesn't exist. That is unicorn, farting glitter, rainbow fairy tale.
And
okay?
I think that's the best thing about it, though, is that the college football committee actually waits to watch them play football games for a substantial amount.
They don't watch the games.
For a substantial amount of the season.
Why do they watch the games? Well, they don't have time to watch the games. There's another thing. You are dead wrong. They do not watch the games. And when they do, they don't know what they're looking at. If they knew what they were looking at, they'd be on the sidelines. They have a formula that somebody else tells them to manage. That's the only job of the playoff committee. You, me, Danny, Will, you put us all in there, right? And we are going to come up with the exact same thing following their protocol. They gave us the protocol day one. Nobody listened to it, and they followed it every single day for the last 10 years, except when they imposed the death penalty on Florida State, and there was a clause in the rules that gave them out on that as well.
But so, I will say then they let the season play out before they release any of the rankings.
They do because they need the season to play out to get the numbers to rank them within the ranking rules.
Right.
But even if they did this on the last day, if there was never a playoff committee meeting, the rankings would all end up being the same. They don't watch games. They don't have the expertise to watch games. They don't have time to watch the games. How do you watch 40, 50, 60 teams in 24 hours, think you're an expert and rank them? They don't. That's another thing that's crap.
That is
so correct. I know I took us down a rabbit hole. We're talking about talent acquisition.
No way with you. No way with you. We went down a rabbit hole with Dave Bartoo.
I know. Well, I told Will, dude, top of the hour. You can have me as long as you want. I'll even hold over on breaks if we're rolling.
All right.
One of the things that we were talking about, and this is the thing that I've kind of beat the drum on for years with Oregon fans, was they would be good, but you would see these gaps when they'd have a class that made sense. They would lose guys, or they'd be weak in some position group. You would just see that it would bear itself out over the last couple of years. Obviously, started with Chris Ball and has continued into Dan Lanning's era now. Their talent acquisition and the talent depth that they have appears to be the best they've ever had, and that is kind of what is feeding into the positive momentum. Is my read on that incorrect?
No, it's not. It's not, right? Because who wins national championships, right? Mm-hmm. The national championship winners in the last 25 years, this entire century, there have only been two teams that didn't recruit in the top 10 of high school recruiting over the last 4 years, okay? If you're one of the top 10 recruiters of high school players over the last 4 years, period, nothing else considered, you've won 23 of the last 25 national titles. Okay?
Now,
the only two teams to do it, last year Michigan at number 12 and Clemson under Deshaun Watson at number 13. Okay? Now, and of all the teams that have lost the national title game, 19 of 25 are also top 10 recruiters. So you look at the winners and the losers, 43 of 50 are top 10 high school recruiters over the last 4 years. And Oregon just hasn't been there, right? Now, when they have, they fall in the next group. Everybody else falls in that 11 to 15 category. Those other 7 teams are all 11 to 15. And all but one of them had an NFL drafted first-round quarterback. All but one of them. Virginia Tech had Michael Vick. Deshaun Watson was at Clemson. A guy named Marcus Mariota at Oregon, right? Last year, J.J. McCarthy, first-round Michigan, all right? The only anomaly, which maybe is in my opinion, the single greatest anomaly of a loser of a national title in the last 25 years, is Ducks and Auburn.
Yeah.
Because Darren Thomas wasn't even drafted. Never even saw an NFL field. So that was the only thing really out of bounds in terms of recruiting. And I keep saying high school recruiting because unless you're paying $2 to $3 million for a quarterback to come in and make a difference like Cam Ward or Dylan Gabriel, I don't think any of it matters. It doesn't matter in the NFL. It hasn't shown to matter in college football. It's all about high school recruiting and retaining that top talent. And the difference for Oregon is exactly what you said. Okay, before Mario Cristobal and Dan Lanning, it was always outside the top 10, always a bridesmaid, never a bride. They never had the talent to do it. They couldn't put it all together. Now, I know every Duck fan, including myself, look, I'm an alumni. He's a good holder for 17 years. If Mariota was playing for Darren Thomas in that championship game, the Mariota we knew, that game was over, right?
Right.
If DeAnthony Thomas makes the block against Stanford and Mariota scores and they win that game, they are still scoring touchdowns on Notre Dame in that national title game. But now the narrative has flipped in that with NIL and the ability to just go out and buy players with whoever has the most money, now the Ducks are a top 5 recruiter.
Right.
You can't talk about national championship now without the Ducks because the conversation has always been, can you recruit to a national championship? And if you couldn't, you pretty much exile those teams, cross them off the list. They're not going to make it. But the Ducks are there now. And so there's a couple other things that are in common of every single national title winner of the last 25 years outside of recruiting. The Ducks have all of those too. There's not one person that I could take seriously that says, oh, I cannot see Ducks as a national championship contender in 2004. All right, well, I guess you don't see Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State as contenders either because you're an idiot. You cannot say that. So with the Ducks, and the window is here. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys have gone over the schedule. It is the 5th easiest schedule relative to talent in the entire college football 2024. Now, 5th easiest schedule relative to talent. This is their year. If Dan just stops going against the numbers on 4th down. Just don't go against the numbers on 4th down. He's gone against the numbers 3 times. He's 0 for 3. They should be undefeated in all of those games, I believe, at least one loss. Then, yes, they are in the middle of the discussion. Absolutely.
One thing that kind of piqued my interest is you talked about Michigan being the anomaly outside the top 10, or one of the anomalies being outside the top 10 in winning a national title. But the transfer portal has been infinite with how much benefit you'll see that teams get. And I think Oregon is going to be a beneficiary of this year with the way that you plug and play guys who aren't your traditional high school players and you get them into your system. Last year, Michigan, if you look at like the 24/7 transfer portal rankings, which people could take those for what they will, but they were a top 10 finisher in transfer portal rankings. How much is the transfer portal affecting some of these contenders who may get that boost? Or I think Michigan was 15th last year. They may get a boost, but also some of the top tier programs like Alabama, who we saw last year, whether it was Kyrie Jackson or Trayshawn Holden, they came to Oregon and they kind of siphon off a little bit of that recruiting talent. How much is the transfer portal affecting these recruiting rankings for these contenders that are coming in and popping from year to year?
I haven't been able to see it conclusively across the board, right? I mean, you pointed out Michigan. Well, what about everybody? Michigan is top 15 in transfer portal in the last 4 years, let's say. Okay. And we haven't had the transfer portal open long enough to really even have a sample size to conclusively say, is it or is it not impacting college football? And it's my opinion that unless it's a quarterback that has major impact, it's not going to impact it because, look, the Ducks are a top 10 recruiter, right? So it only goes to really assume that they're still going to be top 10 in the transfer portal if they need it. Ohio State, top 10 recruiter. They're going to be top 10 in the portal if they need it. But if you look at the NFL, okay, because I see the transfer portal, that's just college free agency. And in the NFL, the more you use NFL free agency, the more games you lose. The worse you are at drafting, the more you use the transfer portal, free agency, the more games you lose. It's almost linear. And so without the data, my assumption going in was a guy like Deion Sanders that goes, I'm all transfer portal. Dude, you're going to get smoked.
Yep.
You are going to get smoked because in the NFL, you get smoked. And last year, he got freaking smoked.
Yeah.
Right? And this year, they're going to, if they start, I'll say this right now. Here's one of my hot takes. Okay. I'll give you a hot take is they lose to North Dakota State in week 1. They're going 0-12. Things going to fall apart. Okay. Right now, their win total is not 5.5. I have UCLA and Colorado combined under 5.5 wins.
Wow.
They are both going to get absolutely pounded into the dirt this year. And for Colorado, again, you have no cultural continuity. You turned over your whole roster again.
Yep.
It didn't work last year. It's not going to work this year. And then this year, you turned over your whole coaching staff. You lost all your good coaches. And then your offensive coordinator, who was one of your best coaches, bounces to San Diego State, and you hire Pat Shurmur, who is graded bottom 5 offensive coordinator in the NFL for the last century. He's a bottom 5 out of 118 offensive coordinators. He's bottom 5 in the NFL. So I don't believe in the transfer portal, maybe to fill holes. But I would rather go Dabo and go all high school than to go to the transfer portal. But last year, so I looked at everybody's record without the transfer portal. And the best high school recruiter, regardless of road or home, won 72% of all the football games in FBS last year. 133 teams, 72% of all the games you would have picked dead on right for the winner on September 1st if you simply went with the best high school recruiter. That's the first time it's broken 70 in 15 years since I started keeping track of it.
Wow.
It's actually gotten – high school recruiting has actually gotten, in my opinion, more important than transfer portal. So don't get way over your skis on the transfer portal because you have cultural continuity problems. You got problems with guys moving down. You know, now Oregon's usually they're going to pull guys up, right? They're going to pull guys that are at lesser programs. But I'm seeing program after program. You take lateral transfers, you take transfers down. Those guys are not performing. Stay away from the transfer down. But you know that's my thought on the transfer thing. Don't get over your skis on how important it is.
All right, we're gonna get some more thoughts with you. We're gonna hold you to your word. You want to stay through the break with us?
I promise. Dude, I'm right here in your backyard. How can I not? I told you I'd be here for you guys anytime. You just got to pick up the phone.
A position group question for you. That's one that I've kind of been wondering. With the evolution and the change in 7-on-7 and focus and how NFL and high college level ready wide receivers seem to be. Are you noticing any changes, in trends as it pertains to wide receiver recruiting or the dispersal and how much more volume of higher end wide receivers there are in college football?
Well, I think it depends on what you define as higher end. Okay. Mm-hmm. I've never talked to you about this before because it's something that we just started doing throughout college football, but we've been doing it in 3 years in the NFL, is advanced kinematics. It's athleticism testing, total body athleticism. And in all the position groups in the NFL, the greater your athleticism, the greater your longevity and the more starts you make per player in the NFL. It's literally linear, the more athletic your body is, by all positions, except 2, wide receiver and tight end.
Interesting.
So, and I'm looking at that going, okay, the most athletic position in the NFL by far requirement is the higher the athleticism in linebacker, the better the player you can get. You know, the bottom half totally outperformed by the upper half. At wide receiver and tight end, it's very different in that the upper athletes, the most athletic guys in the same scale don't outperform less athletic guys. And so I started talking to some wide receiver coaches and various guys, you know, because we work for 6 head coaches right now in the NFL on staffing. And we do the same thing in terms of the kinematics for them. And just individually talking to people, trying to figure out, okay, if it's not the athleticism, what is it? And here's my hypothesis on it. Can you catch the ball?
Yeah.
Can you catch the ball? And I know that sounds funny. It's wide receiver. It's tight end. But there are so many guys that are drafted on potential, speed, size, right? Power, strength, all of the, wow, look at his 10, his 20, his 30, his, you know, this, that, and the other. But can you run a route? Can you read a defense? Can you anticipate? Can you high point the ball? Can you catch the ball in traffic? And it is, the tight end is less so. But at the wide receiver level, it is amazing, Danny. And I'll sit down with the numbers sometime with you when we have time to really sit down and talk. I'll show you this. And
you know I love it.
It is amazing how all of these incredible wide receiver athletes, these guys, I mean, we just had 6, 7, 8 guys go in the first round of wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
massive risk. I mean, massive risk. Those guys are so incredibly overvalued. Yeah, somebody's going to catch lightning in a bottle on a couple of them, but the numbers say that is an incredible risk in the first round. And so for whatever reason, I think the perception is kids are bigger, faster, stronger, blah, 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 blah. They seem to be more wide receiver NFL ready, but the numbers say that pales in comparison to, can you catch the football no matter where it is? Give me a guy that is a really good athlete that catches every ball my quarterback delivers versus the great athlete that makes the great catch once in a while.
Yeah, I think it's something in that too, is because feel is a big one too, and getting open in the NFL is feel, because of the athleticism on the opposite side of the ball. If you have a corner or a safety who's over the top of you, those guys are, everybody's a freak athlete, and it kind of cancels each other out. And you're on it with catching the damn football, most important thing a receiver can do. But that feel of how when the DB's hips flip and you break your route down, that is, those are the intangibles where I don't think you can't manufacture a test to see if a guy has that or not, right?
You can't. We can get the athleticism score, right? I can do my athleticism score relative to you, and my athleticism score. Let's say one of my NFL guys go, okay, I'm not looking at Bartoo. He doesn't have the athleticism to even make a roster in the NFL. Dusty does. Okay, he's at 83.47. Great. This guy is a 1 to 4th round draft pick. Now let's go to the film, and I don't want to see the film of him making pretty catches. I want him making all the ugly catches. Right. I want to do my due diligence to see if this guy can catch the ball. The athleticism side is really more of a filter, and then you go to the eye test instead of wasting your time on a lot of guys that don't have the athleticism to even make an NFL or a college football roster.
I feel like you're speaking directly to N'Keal Harry and Quentin Johnston right now, right now in the NFL. Who's
that?
Johnston, the receiver for the Chargers, and N'Keal Harry, who's now, I think, trying to play tight end somewhere. Good luck with that.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, those guys were probably athletic enough, right?
Yep.
Could they catch the ball?
They all look the part, freaky athletes.
Right. One guy that always comes to mind that I like, Pac-12 guy, right? Never the fastest, right? Big, strong guy, but not the fastest. But everybody says he's a precision route runner. He can read defenses, and he catches everything. But his numbers didn't make him jump as a lottery guy, right? Keenan Allen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Keenan, was he the fastest guy? Hell, even Jerry Rice. This is what kind of triggered it. This kind of dates me too. But I remember there was an interview with his coach at Mississippi Valley State, and they said, "What's the greatest thing about Jerry Rice?" And he responded with, "He can catch a BB in the dark."
Yep.
Right? Not the fastest guy, right? Not the biggest guy. He's not cut like Metcalf. He's not as fast as it's not as fast as a lot of these guys, but he caught everything, and he was a student of the game to read the defenses, to get on page with his quarterback. So I don't get over my skis over really big, fast, athletic guys anymore on wide receiver and tight end at college and the NFL. Can you catch the ball?
You mentioned earlier that Oregon has a 5th easiest schedule relative to talent this year in all of college football. I would assume then that you are buying the Ducks high on their win totals this season.
How do you not? They only play one team. They out recruits them, and they get them at home, right? they get Michigan in a great window. Their offense is gone. Their coaching staff completely got replaced. I see Sharon Moore on people's top 25 as head coach. I'm like, dude, he's never even coached a game. He may not ever coach a game. But seriously, I don't know how you don't buy it, right? I mean, unless somebody gets hurt that we're not seeing, unless they get in a lot of critical 4th down situations that they go for it, where they're actually due. Even if they keep going against the numbers, they're actually due to be successful on a few of those. But in fact, Ohio State and Oregon, I'm absolutely buying them because Ohio State has the 3rd easiest schedule in college football relative to their talent. And just for everybody listening, just to let you know, I've been doing ease of schedule for nearly 15 years. And in the last 10 years of doing it in the college football playoff era, 9.5 teams per year finish in the top 12 out of the top 20 in ease of schedule, right? So 1 year 9, 1-year 10. So the vast majority of your top 12 is coming out of the top 20 teams with ease of schedule. That's another reason. Actually, I just love the Ducks in Ohio State to play. They can play 3 times this year. They play at Autzen, play in the Big Ten championship game. They might get mashed up in the playoffs again.
Jeez.
Bartoo, thanks for taking some time for us, man. We appreciate you.
We need to do a football palooza with you.
Yeah,
soon.
Dude, don't be a stranger.
We'll get it on the books.
Let's go live somewhere. Let's drink beer for 3 hours and talk nothing but college football, like a McMinimans or something.
I love this.
I'm right here for you guys.
I love this.
Ask me.
We can probably make that happen.
You're the man, Bartoo.
Dave Bartoo at
Take it
College
easy.
Football Matrix. As always, the best thing about Bartoo is you wind him up and let him go, and
Just let him go.
You're just going to get all of the information.
He was literally just listening to the show earlier when
And
we
he
were
texted
talking, and he's like, he texted me, he's like, I'm here. Talent, I got you. And so
and we barely
got
scratched
it.
the surface.
yeah, we really did.
I mean, that's the thing. So